pay attention to the idea to innovate, not just to have a nostalgic approach with the monument. Gianfranco, adesso dobbiamo correre perché
Sì.
it's not a case study to represent the concept that Gianfranco highlight for a contemporary approach.
Vediamo ora alcune riflessioni progettuali dove il ragionamento, si è concentrati proprio sul ragionamento del palinsesto, nel senso che ci si basa proprio sul palinsesto territoriale e a seconda dei contesti questo palinsesto assume la figura storica oppure assume gli elementi ambientali. Oppure ancora vengono assunti per costruire relazioni con l'esistente attraverso il progetto elementi che fanno parte dell'impalcato infrastrutturale. Come vedete, non c'è una predilezione per un elemento del contesto piuttosto che un altro, quanto un'attenzione a quello che il singolo contesto ci offre per costruire, nuove relazioni. E quindi ci troveremo in questi...
Aspetta. So, the two case study, so two different contexts in Mediterranean area. In the first, we have to deal with the palimpsest of the history in Tunisian context. This is Tunis city, and here we have Oristano, is a medium sized city of Sardinia. So in the project, it's not important to privilegiare, to underline, to select an aspect on another aspect. So the most important is to have an idea of the most important layer of this context. In Tunisia, the most important layer is the history. It means that it was a Roman colony. So the grid is the Roman grid for to settle in Tunisia. Here, the context, the palinsesto, is related to the environment because we are in a gulf and we are in front of a lagoon. So they are the two different aspects, and they are important in the same level, the environmental palinsesto and the historical infrastructure palinsesto. Dobbiamo andare avanti veloci.
Sì, andiamo
Tunisia.
veloci. Vabbè,
Tunisia.
la città, l'ambito metropolitano di Tunisi, la cartografia storica dove fa vedere proprio l'ex Medina in prossimità
Yeah.
del lago e l'ambito di Cartagine a occidente, scusate, a oriente.
Okay, this is a big metropolis, 4, 5 million inhabitants. This is the historical site of the monument of Carthage, so important center of the historical dynamic of Mediterranean Punic and Roman, of the Punic and Roman culture. And Medina was, in the historical map, the Arab Islamic city. And they are not so far, not so close, and 20 kilometers, if I remember, close to this an important lake. So a very typical landscape of Mediterranean area.
Ok.
Okay.
L'ex ambito agricolo occupato oggi dall'insediamento, da una parte dell'insediamento urbano è ancora assegnato dalla centuriazione romana, di cui esiste ancora traccia nell'organizzazione.
Okay, as you can read, this is the limit is the UNESCO area. The UNESCO is trying to preserve the monuments. There are many monuments, but the pressure of the new city is create a vulnerable situation. And Gianfranco underlined the different grids of this is it was the agricultural grid, and this is was the urban grid. So for us, these two different grids are a very important references for the future project to preserve Carthage.
Il progetto nell'intento di costruire una connessione tra due testate importanti, quella della città dei ruderi di Cartagine e quella dell'ambito delle Sarine, attraversa un ambito urbano molto importante, però allo stesso tempo che presenta notevoli criticità dal punto di vista urbano, mancanza di spazi pubblici, mancanza di verde attrezzato, viabilità, servizi.
There are so many critical aspects in the city, especially around the UNESCO area. You can see in black the monuments. So Gianfranco underlined that to preserve Carthage, it means also to preserve the border, the limit of the city, because they are lacking of urban services, public spaces, infrastructure. So preserve this area, it means also to preserve, to promote a different approach for the urban area.
Ok. Questo è quello che mostra il piano
Eh,
urbanistico, come vedete un piano chiuso, basato sullo zoning, che non apre, non mostra nessuna apertura tra il contesto insediativo e l'ambito archeologico.
Sì. Gianfranco, abbiamo solo 10 minuti, dobbiamo correre. Quindi, this is the plan. You can see in a yellow area just the project of the urban plan of management, the urban of Carthage. It means that the plan isolate the monuments without any link between the city and the monuments. So, Gianfranco, posso spiegare velocemente
Sì, sì,
questo?
sì, vai, 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 verso
Andiamo.
te.
Some images to understand which are the border, which are the typical border of UNESCO area. Every part of the city is related to historical traces. If you see, this is a basilic, is a church, an important church, but it was fragmented from this infrastructure. So the monument is isolated. So we are working with the University of Carthage to try to promote a project, Value Carthage. And so with the same approach of uh, in our territorio struttura model. Okay, just to say, because we don't have time, ti do la parola su alcuni
Sì, sì, ok, ok.
un po' più di dettaglio. So we underline with a black area the priority for the project. And so this is some territory struttura. It means some connection between priority areas. Te lo do su un dettaglio, Gianfranco.
Sì, sì, sì.
Eh, ok,
È un
vai.
progetto che studia i territori di bordo, quello che noi definiamo spazio soglia. E quindi è il luogo dove avviene il progetto, si sforza per costruire lo spazio di relazione tra l'ambito archeologico e quello insediativo. Attualmente questa relazione non esiste. Si passa da quello archeologico a quello, diciamo, insediativo senza alcuna mediazione. Progetto e costruzione di relazioni. E
Eh,
quindi lo spazio funge, in questo spazio, diciamo, affidato al progetto, avviene la relazione tra questi due ambiti.
Okay, the project is a third space, is an intermediate space related to the pressure of the settlement and the idea to preserve monuments. These monuments now doesn't exist, is underground, and to highlight the monument, it means also to to have urban policy. It meant to move the settlement here in this area. Gianfranco, sto sottolineando questo. So new
Sì,
settlement to move to promote a modification of this area, informal area, and to the idea of the project is to rebuild some of this settlement in a free area, in a public area. So the project, Gianfranco underlined, it means to design If you remember, the grid is in this direction. So the grid is also in the shape of this space and creating this border. They say out threshold space. I don't know if threshold is, but it's a border. It means to highlight the monument, to highlight and to create the possibility to new services, new area for also for this quarter settlement. We call it Le Cram. Here another example. Okay, il Porto Romano, Gianfranco.
Sì.
So obviously the project create a different area, 5 minutes. So the Roman port. Vai Gianfranco?
Ecco, e questo spazio, diciamo, si configura anche diciamo, lungo il tratto costiero, dove praticamente si crea una connessione tra tutti i monumenti che l'azione di scavo ha rivelato e che necessitano però di essere, come dire, relazionati tra loro attraverso sempre i luoghi rivelati dallo scavo.
So the project create a very low modification, no? As Gregotti underlined. Gianfranco also explained that the project connect the different monuments. Otherwise, today, when you are here, you don't understand that you are in a big monument like a Roman port. And the project, that's why the project create this very small connection, but they are so strategic to stay, to understand, to make the sign clear. Gianfranco, dobbiamo correre perché adesso abbiamo 5 minutes.
Sì, vabbè. Allora, vabbè, questo
The
invece è il
second
progetto,
project.
sì, di rigenerazione della città di Oristano, che nasce a proposito di un bando, di un concorso nazionale sul recupero delle periferie urbane. Siamo in Sardegna, a Occidente, Golfo di Oristano. La città di Oristano nasce in prossimità della laguna, è una città, diciamo, lagunare. È anche fluviale, però, perché è attraversata in maniera tangente dal fiume Tirso, che è il fiume più grande della Sardegna.
Okay.
Eh,
Scusa Gianfranco, this is another context in Mediterranean area. If you remember, it's so similar, but it's a small size, a lake here, a river, and Oristano participate with Gianfranco. He was the coordinator to a project, a national project. He won a competition about the new project for peripheral area. And I remember the moment in which he sketched this schema for the project, and with this we try to connect all the parts, the different parts of the settlement. Scusa, spiego velocemente. Industrial area, peripheral settlement, agriculture area, the sprawl, infrastructure. So the project create a connection between all these areas, creating a public park from the city to the Gulf. And the city was working in this level. So this is the plan. The plan is just highlight the infrastructure. The idea of the plan is to grow just like in a circle, like Vienna, but it's not Vienna. Vienna had a very strategic project with aiuto,
e
Wagner.
quindi era chiusa.
Yes, but this is for us, it's just a close picture for the plan. And just to formalize in the different color, just the function, not a project. So Gianfranco participate with his group, we were with him, and create a different approach for the city, creating a public park connecting all this area. This was the team, a group, a very important team. He was the coordinator, and the university, me and also other colleagues participate to this important challenge. This is the context, and the context is the river valley. Vai, Gianfranco.
Ecco,
Eh,
a partire, si costruisce praticamente una struttura lineare che si nutre degli elementi che preesistono, che sono fatti sia di elementi naturali, quali appunto il tratto di costa, compreso insomma l'infrastruttura del porto, sia l'ambito lagunare, e sia tutto un corridoio ferroviario abbandonato che attraversa tutto questo spazio lineare chiamato appunto parco lineare. Il parco è costituito da elementi residuali di suoli che hanno perduto la loro funzione, tratti di agricoltura dismessa, spazi industriali ottocenteschi abbandonati, sede di depositi. Quindi, come vedete, proprio dagli elementi, diciamo, che fanno parte di un palinsesto che ormai è abbandonato, che non comunica più con la città, si riesce invece a individuare una nuova figura che diventa invece una struttura rigenerativa per la città, in quanto la attraversa in tutta la sua componente, andando a raccogliere sia gli elementi, diciamo, insediativi della città compatta e diffusa, e sia, diciamo, gli elementi ambientali che in un certo senso la contornano.
Aspetta, I summarize. So this is the project of this public structure, and he was able to connect the different vulnerable aspects of the city. One of these is the relation between the city and the lagoon, the relation between the city and the Gulf and the industrial port, but also this small fragmented aspect. They are settlement, informal settlement, but also the agriculture and abandoned farms. So he selected the area, but recognized the possibility to connect uh, all these spaces. In this moment, this project is gonna realize in the different part, creating this boundary, an important boundary. So you can see some of these elements. These are, for example, very important nation monuments for the city, but also public space. And the idea is to walk in this area from the city to the lagoon. Gianfranco was also able to create a governance of the project. I remember the moment in which he introduced this design and all of these numbers represent project that then stakeholders would like to realize. So there was a very big group of participants, private sector, public sector, to realize this important structure. Una conclusione, Gianfranco?
Ehm, cioè, tutto questo, diciamo, tutto questo approccio si riassume in una figura spaziale che, come diceva all'inizio Silvia, come dire, si può sintetizzare con la figura, col termine di territorio struttura, cioè praticamente un dispositivo spaziale che mira di carattere rigenerativo, che mira, diciamo, alla ricostruzione o di rapporti tra parti di città che per ragioni diverse non comunicano più tra loro.
Gianfranco conclude underlying that the territorial struttura is this design. This is the triangle, white triangle. Doesn't exist, but the figure, this design is just the architectural approach in which he put in order all the elements in the border. And so this is like a chance, a new chance, innovative chance for the city, and contribute to a new possible relation with environmental context of the city. And I just want to underline also that you work in the same level with a different area in the same time, working in the channel, working in the river, creating a new settlement. He designed this area with the same approach. So our conclusion is that we need to design in urban planning and architecture. We need to create a new imaging for the mayor, for the politician to get good decision. And please, a suggestion is for Olbia, don't forget the environmental context. Don't forget this possibility to connect. Don't be isolated. Don't be pay attention to isolated areas because we need relation with the context, with the history, and in this way we think the Mediterranean area can have a good feeling with the vulnerabilities. Okay, and sorry we ran a lot, but now I give you for Professor Sulis to explain the approach in technical way in the approach for vulnerability risk and how can we deal with environmental context. Okay, I thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Silvia. Just okay. Can you see the presentation?
Not
Yes.
now.
Salute.
Non ancora.
We can hear you.
Ok, can you?
Yes. Ok, hai 15 minuti, scusa, ti abbiamo dato 5 minuti, ma vabbè.
Okay, this is a sort of rat race. I mean, time goes fast. So, I'm not good to summarize complex items. I'm so prolix, we can say, but I'll try to do my best. So, following the keynote of Professor Giovanni Maciocco in the opening ceremony of yesterday, in our opinion, the territory is the visible outcome of complex environmental processes. So designing requires analytical knowledge of these complex physical processes and a design knowledge of the visible outcomes of such processes. Our project is not a simple tool for a validation of a predefined knowledge of the territory. In the philosophy of Heidegger, you can see that this pen reveals itself in writing. In our work, the territory reveals itself in the design. We don't design a single object, we don't design a pen, we don't design even a complex coastal protection infrastructure. We design new relationships in the territory. Like Immanuel Kant in the Critique of Pure Reason, we can define the project as a segment that connects all points of the territory. Of course, the incomplete knowledge of the territory is a key element of our design. The incomplete knowledge of the territory makes risk. This topic is about a consistent use of the concept of risk. A consistent use of the concept of risk is intended to provide a more clear, a more transparent basis for communicating climate change risks and risk management options to the decision makers. We define risk as potential for adverse consequences. Please pay attention to each word. Potential for adverse consequences. Considering flood as one of Gianfranco, Gianfranco, puoi chiudere il microfono? Considering flood as one of the most significant driver in coastal planning and design in Olbia, the adverse consequences in Olbia are for human and ecological systems, recognizing the diversity of values and objectives associated to such systems. Relevant consequences include negative consequences on lives, health, well-being, economics, social, cultural assets, investment, infrastructure, services, ecosystem, and species. Risk refers only to negative, adverse consequences. The potential for positive outcomes should be described using different terminologies, such as opportunity, potential benefit, co-benefit. In fact, floods can be devastating to population centers, you know, but floods can also have an integral part of the nature's renewal, providing many long-term effects. For instance, floods can contribute to the health of ecologically important wetland areas. Floods can distribute, deposit river sediment with significant nutrients of large area of land. Floods can recharge groundwaters for supplying urban demands. Calculating risk, I can say that calculating risk is a sort of art and science. Flood frequency analysis is crucial for estimating the probability of occurrence and magnitude of potential flood events. The return time, as Professor Machoko said yesterday, the return time of a flood in statistics is an average time between the occurrence of two successive events or of equal or greater intensity than a given value. So this is the return time is the average time between two different events. The average time. In this case, this map shows the flooded areas for predefined return times. You can see that specifically from dark to light blue, we move from high dangerous 2 years return time to less dangerous 1 year return time floods. So don't use risk as a simple substitute for probability of chance. Don't use risk to describe physical hazard. Hazard is a part of risk, but risk is larger than only hazard, only the probability. So don't use risk as a generic term for something like anything bad that may happen in the future. This is not the correct use of risk. It's a misleading. So you can use a sort of following phrase: the risk from something to somebody or something. This is likely correct if it refers to a specific driver of risk, for example, the flood, for a specific human or ecological system. For example, climate change increases the risk from flood to human settlement in Olbia. Oh, so, you know, There are a large variety of criteria that you can use to judge, that you can use to compare alternative system performances, simple, complex performances, for instance. These few slides are not intended at all to completely describe the complex area of statistical summaries. What I want to say is that behind each performance criteria, there is a rigorous, there is a robust definition. There is an analytical, complex approach to quantify that performance. You should acquire the correct skill for a correct use of such terminology. We can define the system as, we can define our design, our project, our structure as a system. And we can describe the system using several parameters. Considering one single parameter, we define a threshold. So, for each period of time, the parameter of our system, the parameter describing our project, describing our structure, can be above in a satisfactory state, or the parameter can be below in an unsatisfactory state. So, our performance criteria provide measures of how well our coastal design performs against flood risk. For instance, reliability. Reliability can be defined as the number of data in a satisfactory state divided by the total number of data in our analysis. So, one definition of reliability is how often our system, our project fails. How often? Okay, we are not interested in the complex analytical quantification, just the definition, please. Resilience. Resilience is a probability. Resilience is a probability of having a satisfactory state in a time period t+1 given an unsatisfactory state in any time period t. Resilience can be calculated in different ways, but the definition, I want to say that the main definition of resilience is how quickly our system, how quickly our project return to a satisfactory state, is a celerity. Finally, vulnerability. Vulnerability is the measure of the extension of the differences between the threshold and our parameter values. Clearly, vulnerability is a complex, multidimensional, probabilistic measure. We use the maximum extension of the independent unsatisfactory event. This is the definition, how significant the likely adverse consequence. At the beginning of the presentation, I was speaking about risk as the potential for adverse consequences, you remember. So vulnerability is a measure of how significant these adverse consequences are. So we at the end, using, for instance, reliability, vulnerability, resilience, or a complex weighted measure based on these simple indicators. Using this indicator, RRV, resilience, reliability, vulnerability, we can quantify the risk in these statistical approaches. According to Frank Knight, many of you maybe know Frank Knight as an important, a great American economist in the last century. When the natural process is unpredictable, it's impossible to speak of risk. So we must move from the concept of risk to to the concept of uncertainty. When the natural process is unpredictable, this makes uncertainty. The uncertainty cannot be quantified. For instance, in terms of reliability, vulnerability, probability of occurrence. But all of us, scientists or designers, need to provide a sort of sense of nature, sense of degree of uncertainty to allow a sort of robust management assessment. Decisions made under uncertainty conditions are a particular field of study in economics, but also decisions made under uncertainty conditions are very important also in the field of coastal planning and design. There are multiple sources of uncertainty at different stages of the design, including, for instance, uncertainty about the climate scenarios to be considered in our project. For instance, long-term changes in ocean surface waves is a relevant source of uncertainty in coastal protection design. This is the case of trends over 25 years, comparing in 4 recent high-quality global data sets using a consistent methodology by Timmermans et al., including one global data set from the European Space Agency. In the exhibition Olbia 2050, in addition to the risk of designing under uncertainty, under current environmental conditions, any coastal structure with a design life of over 10 years will need to incorporate the uncertainty. Uncertainty of what in Olbia? Uncertainty regarding sea level rise and coastal storm conditions. It means that in facing the uncertainty, we move from the analytical knowledge of such processes, the flood processes, to the design knowledge of the visible outcomes of such processes. And I'm about to finish. In that exhibition, we distinguish two opposing paradigms. The first one, fighting against sea level rise, using hard protection or gray infrastructures. The second paradigm is adapting to new environmental conditions, under uncertainty. So, environmental condition in terms of sea level rise, in terms of increasing in wave energy. We apply the second, we apply the soft adaptation paradigm. In this summer school, you will see how dune rehabilitation, how sand nourishment, floating breakwater or pontoon allow the urban coast of Olbia to respond dynamically to change in sea level rise and change in wave energy. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Sulis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't know if there is time for any question.
Okay, maybe I expect one more professor will give us lecture, Biddau. Eh?
No, Giovanni Maria Biddau is not here.
No,
okay.
got
got
sick and is not with us, unfortunately.
So okay. Thank you very much, Professor Sanna. Thank you very much, Professor Sulis. We have learned a lot from you today about Sardina and Olbia and how you see the vulnerability of your nature positively. And we have learned Sardina is not the content. The Professor Silvia explained urban designing is a reassembling context, but we have to think about a lot of context. We have learned Sardina's context from the Carthago, Roman, medieval European continent. So now students have a lot of tasks to study from now on. Thank you very much for your lecture. So we have learned a lot. I have tried to accept a question from the students. The student can give us a question anytime, but especially East Asian students and they are very hard to read the atmosphere of the online lecture. So it's commonly they don't give any questions. So if
We know
they have
that.
any time, students can raise your hand and I'll accept. I see the monitor all the time. So if anyone has a comment or question, I'll accept.
They can write us. They can write us if they would like to have more detail about project. We can have a small meeting with them also in Olbia. So we have time to discuss if they
Yes,
know.
yesterday we collected the further request first, but end of the lecture program, we will collect the students' question and then shares with the lecturers what they and give it every year we do the same process. End of the lecture program, accept the question and give them an answer. So okay, thank you very much today for first lecture. So I'd like to move to the second lecture from Kyushu University. Professor Koichiro Aitani,
Hello.
uh,
Yeah, I'm here.
yes, yes. Thank you very much for your attending. So can I ask
Yeah.
you tema of today?
Oh, yes. So I should share the slide, I guess.
Yes, yes, please.
Oops. Is this showing the slide or not?
It's
Maybe no. Okay.
yes.
How about this?
Yes, it's now perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so the theme of the lecture is art as a catalyst and the strategy for the urban regeneration. And I have two case studies. One is Setouchi Islands. You might know the island called Naoshima, and also the Bilbao. Yeah, of course you know Bilbao because you are from Europe. My name is Koichiro Aitani. I'm a professor at Kyushu University. So we are really delighted to bring our 6 students to Sardinia Island in August. I am at the Kyushu University in the Department of Digital Build Environment. It's a kind of extension or parallel to the architecture department within the university. Why I chose this topic is Japan is shifted from the growing into the more matured stage or shrinking stage. And then, so the urban regeneration strategy for using like urban catalyst idea was quite essential in order to preserve that maybe the historical urban fabric or memory of the places without just doing that scrap and build approach because of the after that war 1945 Japan had a really rapid growth, and during that process we had destroyed a lot of urban traditional urban places. So that is a pity. So my attitude for the research is how to preserve that urban context. So within that urban catalyst approach, maybe some strategy is urban acupuncture, urban infill, conservative surgery, and urban interventions. So today, mostly I am talking about that urban acupuncture, so which is how to apply that strategic regeneration or development within that context. And the urban intervention is how that the some development trigger that the ripple effect to that the city. So what is urban catalyst? So I'm just saying, but I guess we have only 1 hour, or maybe I need to finish by 7, correct? Yeah, so I will explain later. So I will skip this. But what the urban catalyst is, if I apply something here, so that effect will spread around to the neighborhood. This is like a chess or a checkerboard, like an Othello. Traditional redevelopment strategy in Japan was black part is it's not one functioning or need to be developed. So removing entire black part and then placing something new is a traditional methodology. But urban catalyst is not just removing entirely, maybe apply some development into that specific point, specific location. Then that will make that the surrounding neighborhood to that white. So that slow effect spreads around. So this is a very traditional Japanese development, maybe not only Japan, maybe Asian. So the urban fabric is not for the automobiles. So the modern development or contemporary development is based on the automobiles layout. So that the kind of like a farmers areas or old pathway for the carriage and the pedestrian is not functional in order to accommodate the automobiles. So that makes that the before is very complicated fabric into the more rational gridded patterns. So that way, the land is readjusted based on the area they used to have. So that after this development, memory of place is totally gone. The maybe grandfather or grandmother, and they come to this area, know nothing because it's totally new. So which is pity. And the small fabric, small building will be like combined together into the bigger land for the bigger developments. That is a very, very typical Japan's development up to 90s. It's still happening, but I think the economy is slow. So this kind of large development is no longer happening as often as before. So the urban acupuncture is there will be that the place or spot in the city if we apply something more effectively than that the other places, like a human body. The human acupuncture, there are some spots, if you press hard or press gently, that will make that the blood circulation better. So that kind of phenomena or logic could be applicable to that city. So that way, I'm going to show that the Setouchi Islands and the case of that Naoshima, Inujima, and Teshima. Anybody know those places, I hope. If not, you will know after this lecture. So Setouchi Inner Sea is relatively southwest of Japan. So there are a lot of islands, and it used to be a very beautiful area. However, no, it's considered as the Mediterranean Sea of Japan. I don't know you agree or not. Very unfortunately, during the modernization of Japan, those area was a victim for the industrializations. inner sea means that it's not affected by the typhoon as much as at the Pacific side, and the wave and the stream are very calm. So it was perfect to settle that the factories. And also the smaller islands used to be that like a fisherman's village or something like that. And during the modernization, Japan is a very Tokyo-centric countries. So if people want to get a better job, higher salaries, people move to Tokyo or Osaka. So those small islands had the decreasing populations. The people cannot no longer live with fishing or farming. So the islands become getting empty, less people. So it was good excuse for that large corporation to build that factories. So air pollutions, water pollutions. So the beauty of the islands are really damaged and also almost destroyed. So that was the background of those islands. However, the Benesse is like an educational company, and the founder of this company is from this neighborhood. And he was so mad of his childhood memory was damaged by that industrialization. So he asked Tadao Ando how to rebuild the beauty, how to rebuild the nature. So those are the after effects, how that the interventions of art projects, museums, some cultural facilities, and it took 30 years, but nowadays Naoshima is considered as a mecca of the art. So the visitors or tourists visiting to this island got so much than that the capacity of the island. So it's like an over tourism kind of suffering nowadays. But let me go through. So the Naoshima Island is here. Teshima Islands are here. And there are some other islands, the kind of location of the art interventions. So this one is a southern part of Naoshima Island, and you see some buildings here, here. Those are the architecture designed by Tadao Ando, and I will explain more chronologically how those interventions happened. Inujima Island is a much smaller island. Used to be that like a copper processing factory, but it was abandoned after the 10 years of operation. So that the abandoned factory was converted into the museums. And the Sejima, the Sanna of the partner, also intervened several house projects. They called it the art house. Teshima Island, that is another island, one of the three I was going to explain. You see this concrete shell. This one is designed by the Ryue Nishizawa, the partner of Sanna. He built the concrete shell on like a rice field. So this is a Fukutake guy. He met the town mayor, talk about how to change Naoshima Island. So Tadao Ando was invited as an advisor, and when Tadao Ando visited, the part of the island, maybe 1/3, lost greens because of the air pollutions. So he was very disappointed, and he said, there is nothing you can do. So the Fukutake guy was very disappointed, but he didn't give up. So he begged Tadao Ando, please do something. So the first idea was importing the Mongolian pouch. You see the Mongolian pouch, maybe 10 of those, and made as like a international campsite. So bringing that the kids during the summer and they experience that the island and they're doing something, but that they don't last too long, only a few years, because Tado Ando convinced Fukutake to build that the museum and the hotel combined together as a intervention. So bringing that art as interventions, but not only the museum, because the accommodation hotel facility is as part of the museum. That means the visitor staying this hotel can experience the artwork 24 hours. So I stayed few times, and yeah, maybe after midnight, maybe 1 a.m., you can still go to that exhibition spaces, maybe one by yourself, and then see in the art with silence, and also that the natural beauty outside of the museum. So that kind of like a site-specific artwork. There is no like a rotating art exhibitions. Those artwork are specifically ordered and designed by the artist. So the site-specific approach, this is one of the earliest example of the contemporary museums. And also that on top of those art interventions, Kagawa Prefecture, in collaboration with Okayama Prefecture, they started the Art Triennale. Art Triennale is like a art event. Like maybe hundreds of artists are invited to make that art installations into those islands. And that was held every 3 years since 2010. So 2010, 2013, 16, 19, 22, and this year 25, the intervention, Triennale held. Starting with these islands, and the effect is tremendous. So the other island wanted to be part of the art triennale. So it's expanded to here, expanded to those islands. So that triennale really triggered the dead circulation of the boat, ferry cruising activities. So the ports are activated because of those art events. Those islands really decreased the population, so this really helped that the elderlies to be energized to meet the visitors. Also that the artists making those installation is like an artist in residence kind of approach. So they come to the island and they build their stuff or their artworks with the help of the residents. So there are a lot of communication between the residents as well. Some artists moved in after that art event, so that the slight population increase also happening. And when a lot of tourists comes, as a result, restaurants, like accommodation inns, hotels opening up, restaurants open. Oh, can I continue? I guess. So those are like effects, how that the population increase, how the visitor increases, and also that how many artists are invited. Now more than 200 are invited through that. Yeah, 30 the direction to get on countries, and the economical impact And those are the number of visitors to Naoshima. It's like 200,000 people visiting onto that only 3,000 residents, something like that. And for the during that Triennale, the average stay for the visitors are like 2 days, something like that. So that is really incredible because those islands are not designed as a tourist destination before. So in order to accommodate those visitors, the hotels are opened, inns are opened. So yeah, looking at some artwork, this is a very famous Kusama Yayoi's pumpkins. Tadao Ando's first intervention of the hotel is here. Couple of years later, the annex was also built by Tadao Ando's. And a special experience can be done. The first hotel to the second hotel, there is like a cable cars. And only that the guest has a key to enter this cable cars. Lot of vacant houses are converted into the art project, like art galleries. So the water was like embedded, some like digital artworks inside of the under the water. Chichu Museum. This was a really big impact. After this was open, the more tourists visited this island. Tadao Ando's idea was in order to preserve the beauty of the nature, he built the architecture underground. So it's not really changing the silhouette or outline of the island. However, the space is built in underneath of this hill. The Villa Madia was invited to design the artwork, and the ferry terminal was upgraded because of the more visitors came. So Sanna, Sejima, and Nishizawa designed this ferry terminal buildings. The hotels need more demand, so he designed, Tadao Ando designed another hotel. And also the more luxurious, like townhomes, like a villa for the accommodation. It's only 4 rooms. This is a Art Triennale's art installation that the traffic cones painted in white, kind of placed next to the ferry terminals. Some kind of stainless steel, like canopies. And the center, this is like a hot springs, was built with the renovation of the existing buildings. Lee Woo-fan, the Korean artist, was also invited to provide his sculpture with the collaboration of Tadao Ando's architectures. That's Naoshima. I'm sorry, this is not Naoshima, but some other projects. So when look at the size of islands, Naoshima, most of the art intervention happened middle part to the south. So it's a radius of the 2 kilometer or less. So it's quite small. And the designated area is this port area, another port area, and the Venice area. So 3 parts. In between are not as much as developed. So kind of like a spot development in here, and in here. It's like a 200-meter apart. So without a car, maybe bicycle is helpful, but those areas are easily visited by walking. And to look at those buildings all together, maybe half day, like 4 hours, maybe 8 hours at most. So if you stay one day, you can fulfill yourself to enjoy the architecture, art, and the nature together. It's not overwhelming. And if you have more days, you can go to other islands. There are beach, so if you are exhausted, you can lay down on the beach to enjoy the oceans. Homura area, this one has not much new building, but a lot of vacant houses are converted to the art galleries. And the art galleries are like a blue highlighted here. So it's not concentrated one location, but slightly fragmented around. So to visit those 5 or 6 gallery, you need maybe 4 hours at most. So it's like a half day. If you want to see more carefully, maybe 8 hours at most. So it's very easy to navigating yourselves around. Only 200-meter radius. And the farther to go is only 400-meter radius. That means 10 minutes walk is enough. The old fisherman's village. Mianoura is another port area. And again, it's quite small, quite walkable. The Sejima's ferry terminal is these buildings. Inujima, another smaller island. This was, you see a lot of gray area. Those are the stone quarry area. And this island was famous for the granite. And the granite was used for the reclamations of the Osaka port areas. So island is easy to transport the stones because it doesn't need to be landed. It can get that stone. They also suspended by the 2 boats and cruise to the Osaka area. So it's like your body's parts are sold to fill the Osaka Bay Area. So that was one of the industry for this island. And after that stone was all taken, copper processing factory was invested here. And it kind of stopped running after 10 years in operation. And now it's converted to the art museums. Only 400-meter radius. And you can visit majority of those areas. So again, it's quite walkable. And the blue area are like art installation, inventions. So Hiroshi Sambuichi's copper museum, and those are renovated or replaced Sejima's art houses. So this is like a copper processing factory converted to the museum. And again, the artwork is permanent. It's not like rotating. So look at this is like a Sejima's art house installation, like here, and there are some here, and on top of the hill, kind of things, and adjacent to this small port. Another like a vacant house was converted to the art gallery. And the Teshima is bigger than the Naoshima, but although this is only 2.5 kilometer radius, and this Teshima Island was more awful story because one of the landlords used the illegally dumped garbage area on this island. And that illegal garbage was very toxicated, so that the island was really contaminated by the chemical toxics. And it took 30 years to purify those contaminated area. And it makes like a big protest again by the residents. So during those protests, the court didn't approve for the several cases. So until they won the law cases, it was considered as a garbage island. It was very unfortunate for the residents. However, now it's getting better. There are some parts of and particularly this Ryue Nishizawa's art intervention was really successful. It's just a concrete shell with the two big holes that is captured at the like a wind, and also that when you see carefully the floor is that the water comes out from the well of the beneath. So to see the phenomena of the wind flow and the water coming out of the floor, that is an exhibition of these museums. It looks nothing, but it's quite sacred space. So when you visit, people enjoy half an hour or maybe 2 hours staying in this concrete shell. Even if it's raining, that's another like a beautiful moment to see the rainfalls coming into this big openings. It's kind of merged onto that like stepped terraces. Another intervention was that the abandoned house was converted to the art gallery by the Yuko Nagayama, the female architect, with the Yoko Tadanori's artworks, which is really interesting. The contemporary, like a shrine kind of art intervention. So those are the art islands. If I have time left, I can go into more detail of each architecture, but let's move to the Bilbao as another case. So Bilbao effect. Everybody knows Bilbao is the Guggenheim Bilbao by the Frank Gehry, but that is at the peak of the iceberg. There are lots of things is under the water. So that I like to introduce. So that's Bilbao city along the Nervision rivers, and everybody knows or familiar with Bilbao was before the Guggenheim. I don't know how many of you are familiar with. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I was more curious about the students. But anyway, okay, Bilbao was like the industrial cities, like a steel industry and also the ship industry. So Bilbao is a very rare case, the successful conversion or shift, transformation from the brown city to the green cities or smart cities. So the port was developed after the 1991, and at the mouth of the river, they built the cruise terminals in order to accommodate the cruise ship. So that is a kind of shift how to welcome or how to bring the tourists into the Bilbao city. That's a very successful move. So this is at the kind of center right next to the old town. The before was the industry here. And nowadays, it's a green park with a lot of public facilities such as theaters, corporation building, and Guggenheim. Guggenheim is hidden by the Caesar Palace Tower right here. But I have another angle of the photo. So very pedestrian friendly artworks, like a bridge by Calatrava, another pedestrian bridge was introduced. And the good thing is that the infrastructure enhancement. The metro line was run from east to the west on the northern side of the river, as well as at the south side of the river. And removing the industries and introducing the more residentials, accommodations along the metro line, which means people can rely on the public transportation to maneuver around the city, so that the passengers number gets really increased. Also that the metro station, who was the designer was the Sir Norman Foster or Lord Norman Foster. So I will explain a little bit later, but most of the public facilities are by the internationally or European or nationally well-known artists and architects and designers. So those are the metro line, line 1, 33 kilometers, line 2, 22.8 kilometers, line 3 is 5.9 kilometers, 29 stations, 27 stations, 7 stations. Those are the 600 million, 800 million, 200 millions, quite big monies. So the Bilbao, they got the flats as well. So flats really destroy like downtown areas. Also that the declining the industry because of the steel or ship moved to more cheaper labor areas, like third countries. So Spain is kind of developed countries. So labor cost is more expensive, so it's not sustainable to keep the industry. So the politicians had the future visions how to convert the brown city or industrial city into the smart cities. As part of this future visions, infrastructure was placed very strategically, and also built the Santiago Calatrava's airports, and they also not only that the flag carrier airframes, they introduce more LCCs, so bringing the tourists more cheaply into the Bilbao. So that was another very good strategy, how to connect the city by boat or cruise ship, by flights. And the biggest intervention was at the Guggenheim. The Guggenheims was looking for some European locations. I think there are 4 cities, the candidate cities. They demand a lot. They ask that the city provide that the location of the museum, costs of the facilities, need to purchase half price, half of the artworks, something like that. So Bilbao won this bringing that the Guggenheim. They spend like $100 million, millions euros, but the big success of the conversion, bringing tourists, bringing international conferences, paid off like within 5 years or something ridiculously short amount of the period. So their investment was really, really successful. When you made the big decisions, sometimes the fortune, luck comes with it. So the price of the titanium was really dropped during the construction. So instead of that stainless steel, they could apply titanium as the exterior walls. Also, that the Frangeli is known as an architect, or in the architects, but not in the general public. So this building was the kind of first recognized by the general public. That was also lucky because that this one built 1997. If everything goes well, 1991, Walt Disney Concert Hall was constructed in LA. But that construction was delayed like 10 years. So this one is more exposed to the world as a kind of iconic building of Frangeli. So that area along the Nervesian River is here. So the Guggenheim is right here, almost at the next to that like old downtown. And along the river, all the industrial was removed, so as lot of railway was removed and converted to that public open spaces. You can see the transition like that, and that within like 20, 30 years. That is unbelievable. Unbelievably rapid conversions. Railway removed, converted to that like a riverside park. Parking was scraped to that another public spaces. Rail yard becomes a green park as well. Next to that the stadiums. Spaghetti like highway are removed. Railway removed as well. Those are not Photoshop. That's a real before and after. So this kind of like a messy urban fabric converted to the more better way. And a lot of art installation like Setouchi case. But the effect is incredible. So Biddau with use of hotel 1994 before that the Guggenheim was only 24,000. 2016 it's almost 30, 40 times. Congress was held 88 times, becomes almost 1,100 times. Delegates of the Congress 20,000 to that 200,000. Hotel establishment 29 to 70. Hotel users 400,000 to that 1,600,000. Aerial passengers is how many? 1,400,000 to that 4,500,000. Cruise ship 0 to 51. Passengers of the cruise 0 to the 90,000. So that is amazing transformations. And those are that the architects and the artists are involved of the Bilbao regenerations. Frangeli, Norman Foster, Zaha Hadid, Alvaro Caesar, Rafael Moneo, Arata Isuzaki, so on. So that was my first part of the lecture. If I have time, maybe I can go through that more slides, but let's see. Let's see how the audience. Thank you.
Yeah, you got more 10 minutes, Professor Aitani.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, so maybe I will keep moving. Oh, so Tadawando, he is a self-taught architect, learned architecture from Le Corbusier or Louis Kahn. So Naoshima Art Complex. So I showed this was the first architecture intervention onto the islands of Naoshima, and this is the annex. He built another like a location very close to that the private like a port terminal, so that like a VIP can come by their own boats and they land it and they kind of come to these hotels. This exclusive oval-shaped hotel has only few rooms like that. I think I stayed this room and this room. And those are the suites. I didn't stay. But if you stay this side, you can see that the sunset. If you stayed on the east side, you can see the sunrise. That's a really beautiful moment. But if you stayed in the suite room, you can come to the terrace, see both sunset and the sunrise. Elevation difference is really great. So that's why there is a cable car from this hotel to the annex. Those are some architectures. You can go to the rooftop, which is also nice. And this one is Kyushu museums. So he likes that the simple geometries, like a square, oval, triangles. So it's really underneath of that like a topographies. So you don't recognize those spaces, but so those halls, but within that the architecture, you can see that the clear like a sky, the shaped of those internal spaces. Inujima Art Project. So that the chimney, it's like a landscape with the broken walls. Tambuichi was appointed as an architect to design this museums. So Inujima is known for that like granite. So the granite was kind of cut through this. But in the heydays, this island has 3,000 populations. But nowadays, only 25. And the average age of this island is 85 years old. So that means maybe within 10 years or 20 years, this island becomes no residents. So maybe that those artwork can become the legacy of the island, only that the tourists visit, kind of, but maybe it's okay. So this copper processing factory was abandoned, and those are the kind of brickworks, and Sambuichi asked that the contractors try to find those broken tiles, because when it was broken, some of the pieces underneath of the water, so they kind of like put together, and they repaved of that areas. Yeah, those are the before the constructions. Also, the chimney was preserved. Sambuichi is known for spending at least 1 year before he designed the buildings. So it takes long time for the clients. So clients have to be patient. During the 1 year, what he's doing is investing how that the nature, the natural phenomena involves. So he kind of discovered that the strong winds, rather coming from the east, that can be discovered over the kind of like a trace of that chimney. So he proposed to utilize that the natural winds to ventilate that the building, actually to cool down the building. So this museum has no lighting because there are a couple of halls. Then the hall has mirrors, so that the daylight reflected into those like corridors, and they kind of bounce back and forth into to lit the pathway to enter this main exhibition spaces. Also, that when you look at the two doors or gateways, one is the gateway for the people, one is the gateway for the natural wind. So when wind comes, the chimney will pour the warm air, so that will like circulating through this corridor, and it comes out from the top of the chimney. So the new part and also old part of the repair of the like original like a brick in here. So this is a section, and this main exhibition space, when the wind blows, those hanging artwork will be kind of like a move slightly by the flow of the air. So those are the diagrams, how that the nature involved to that the architecture like systems. Some parts remained as it is, so very minimal touch of the renovations or fabrications. And those artwork is like a original house of the Yukio Mishima. He's like a novelist, and he was really against the modernization of Japan. So he committed suicide to protest the change Japan was happening. So his house elements was purchased by the Fukutake Foundation, and the house like architecture elements such as sliding doors are hanging from this exhibition space. So when the air moves, those hanging pieces will also move. So when you enter the building, you will see that the very slight lights coming from the halls, like a hall mirror reflected, and those like a mirror was placed every corner of this like winding corridors. So you'll be like indicated or guided by this bright light through that very dark corridors. And once you reach that exhibition space, that is the view you will see. Another intervention by Teshima Yoko House by the Yuko Nagayama, the female architect. So this is a art house, but you see that this is like a abandoned house, new like a silo kind of look landmark was installed as an extension of this art space. And she kind of used the laminated glass with like a red films. This was kind of trick to make the people kind of trick to enter the museums. So that's the entrance. So you will see that the like a landscape, gardens through that the red filmed glass. The like a cedar was kind of like a band. So the band cedar is a very traditional Japanese methodologies to preserve or to make that the wood last longer. So she uses this technique. So you will see what's happening through the red glass or red film. Slightly the color reveals because Yoko Tadanori's artwork is really vivid colors, and the theme of his paintings or artworks are death. So something like a death-related themes. So maybe red was quite strong to understand it. But once you enter the courtyard, he painted that the kind of like a Zen garden painted in red. So that kind of like a shocking color was kind of disappeared through the colored films. But once you enter, you will understand what's happening. Yeah, quite wild. Quite wild approach. So once you enter, you have like a grass floors. See that the pond is kind of connected all the way through the backyard underneath of the floor. So you see that the like, artwork happening below the floor. And this is very unusual. You never put the red edge on the tatami mat. Very, very special. And then, inside of the silo, you see that the hundreds of the photos, and the mirrors are placed bottom and the top. So you will see that the infinity of the repeated scenes. Even toilet is mirrored, so you will see yourself inside of the toilet. So that's like a site plans, existing like a abandoned house, and the new interventions here. Very close to the port. Used to be that like a main street here, but now it's really deteriorated. However, after these interventions, slowly the restaurants are opening or are happening along this way, also along this perpendicular streets. So that was at the original house. When they start converting, like local residents, kids are helping for the refabrications. So like a very community oriented, very residents building up the like people's proud belonging, a sense of belongings. So in that regards, this was quite successful renovation project. And the Teshima Art Museum, maybe I running out of time, so maybe in Italy or Sardinia, maybe I can briefly show 10 minutes. But thank you again.
Thank you very much, Professor Aitani. The presentation you made inspired many students, and Project Naoshima is inspiring Olbia's project too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So Project Aitani used some medical terms of urban acupuncture, urban infield, urban surgery, something with the art project. Thank you very much. It might be other professors also curious about the project you present today. But if anyone has comments or questions, okay. Okay, then I think time is up. We'll finish today's program here. And thank you very much for attending the Sassari University's professors and Professor Mladen Jadrich, Lenzer Cardine, and Professor Himeno Yuka, and from Tongji University, also Professor Chen Qing is attending. Thank you very much for today. Tomorrow we'll have a Professor Malden Yadrich and Professor Chen Qing's lecture program is provided. See you on the same time tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you. Professor Silvia Serreli has some comments.
Sorry, can
Okay.
we have just 2 minutes to share the screen with the folders and Boudour can introduce all the documents inside.
Okay.
Can we, just 2 minutes?
Professor Aitani, shut your screens down, then maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so you can see our screen now. Okay, we have created this folder. The title is Olbia Summer School. And inside you have like three main folders. One is for the PowerPoint presentation, like the one that Professor Machoko presented yesterday, and maybe the future ones, we can upload them here also. And another one is with, the title is Urban Regulation, with all different laws that we found about the urban plan of Olbia or the port of Olbia, also Shipness area. The third folder is with the cartography with all the maps that our colleagues have created and all maps that we have found on the Olbia or Geoportali websites. Also, there is a very important file here titled Area Useful Links, which inside you can find some links that guide you through some of the areas of each single area. So you can go click on them link by link and discover the contents. And from there also you can download further information and further files. There is one specific thing that I want to specify, my colleague will explain, is this file. In cartography you have just data. Andrea, puoi spiegarlo?
Yes, just one thing about that there are all the data. We have the data of the municipality of Olbia and the general data of Sardinia that can be useful. And inside we have already a project GIS that had a lot of layer from all the settlement of Olbia. So if you want to use the data, it's better if you download all the folder together to don't lose the link.
That's it for us.
Yeah, thank you.